What's up, guys? Thanks for tuning into the channel. As you guys probably know, but for those of you who don't, I have an unconventional way of approaching the baseball swing and the golf swing, for that matter. And it's that I believe that 95% of swing mechanics is about one particular thing, which is feeling more of the lead side pathway. Through my 30 years practically of studying the swing, I was studying it back in my teenage years, even before that actually. But I always had the feeling that conventional instruction was going about it wrong. You know, even though I bought into it, and I even taught the way conventional instruction teaches now. But the way they go about it is to try to chase positions and force movements into the swing. And this just doesn't work. And so I just always had this feeling, I was always kind of searching for that single element that you can put all your focus on, push as hard as you want on, and it will deliver for you. And I finally found it in feeling more of the lead side pathway. And basically feeling less of the backside pathway. We are way too backside dominant, back arm dominant. Our backside, because it's our more coordinated side, wants to take over, and it wants to take over too much. This may have worked in other types of swings throughout human history, but it's not a good way to hit a baseball. It's not a good way to hit a golf ball. The best way to hit a baseball and golf ball is to use more of your lead side pathway. This is why we see the best hitters and ball strikers flatten the barrel as they start into the forward swing. This is why we see the better hitters get more hand depth, their hands more behind them as they start the forward swing. They are they tend to have a wider bat as they go into the finish. I had noticed these things actually all the way back to my college years. I remember seeing, because we didn't use video that much, but I did a lot of observation with the naked eye and just regular movement. And I noticed that the good hitters had this really wide follow through. They seemed to be well connected at contact and kind of extend after contact, as opposed to what I felt and what I saw in poorer hitters, where they were kind of extending at the ball. It turns out that, you know, I was always trying to force these things. I'd try to force the flattening of the barrel. I'd try to force, you know, a more connected position at contact. I'd try to force a wider finish. And it turns out that that doesn't work. One, forcing it doesn't solve the problem. It's just an artificial way of achieving positions, but it just doesn't work. What works is feeling more of the lead side pathway and quieting the backside. And when you do that, one, what's great about it is you achieve the positions seamlessly. You don't have to force any of this stuff. All the good positions tend to happen naturally. And two, it leaves it open to doing it in your particular style. There is no need to do a cookie cutter swing to try to, again, chase positions and force movements. That is the conventional instruction way. That's the way that I did it for many years too. But at the same time, that way doesn't work. And it's time that we move to something that allows you to find a swing that aligns with your instincts, that aligns with your natural way of doing things. And that's what's so beautiful about feeling more of the lead side pathway, is it leaves everything else that you do in the swing open to the way you want to do it. The only thing that you're adding is one thing, which is feeling more of the lead side pathway. You know, I guess shifting topics, but sort of on the same line of thinking. I don't know if you guys find this when you go out there and you talk to coaches, but there's always this kind of poo-pooing of swing mechanics. People always want to put swing mechanics in its place, you know, and talk about how swing mechanics is not all that important. What's more important is mentality. What's more important is your approach. What do you do with 2 strikes? And they always want to downplay swing mechanics. And for the longest time, I think I just kind of like nodded my head when I encounter people like this. And by the way, a lot of the people who said stuff like this were swing coaches. Unbelievably. They never realized just how important swing mechanics can be. And probably because they never had a turnaround in swing mechanics. I always felt like my peers in instruction, they didn't seem to have the same experience that I had. I mean, it's really just one particular experience that set everything in motion, where I improved a great deal by just changing one thing in my swing. And then that's when I learned, wow, swing mechanics is, man, I didn't even realize the power in swing mechanics. So while everyone else is saying, oh, swing mechanics, yeah, it's, you know, but it's not going to do anything if, and then fill in the blank. They name a whole bunch of different things that are supposedly more important than swing mechanics. Well, while everyone else is saying swing mechanics is overrated, I actually think it's completely underrated. And even though there's so many people teaching it and talking about it, it's still underrated, and it's still a huge opportunity in baseball right now. To me, it's the biggest opportunity. Still, even though it's so popular. Unlike pitch recognition, which is a huge opportunity, but not popular. But pitch recognition to me is second in importance. The first thing I would want to jump on is swing mechanics. But you got to know what you're doing. You got to know the lead side, feeling more of the lead side pathway is what it's all about. Or else I wouldn't get into swing mechanics, because you're going to get into the conventional stuff and it's going to lead you down the wrong road. Right now, everyone's into that staying back on your back leg, you know, doing basically the Aaron Judge swing. They don't realize that Aaron Judge is a huge guy. I'm not saying he has a horrible swing, but he's literally the biggest guy who's ever stepped into a batter's box in Major League Baseball. And he is getting away with less than ideal mechanics. If Griffey was 6'8", 282, he wouldn't have topped off at 56 home runs. He would have topped off at 80 home runs. So there's nuance to this. And my point being that I just find it interesting. It kind of came to me recently that it's so often that people say swing mechanics is not that important. This or that is more important. Focus on that. I actually think swing mechanics is the most important thing. Here's why. If you think about it, it actually can enhance every other skill of hitting. If you have, let's look at the other 4 skills of hitting: pitch recognition, hand-eye coordination, strength and speed, and the mental approach. Okay, let's just say you have great swing mechanics. Let's look at how it enhances every single other skill. We have pitch recognition. Okay, you could argue that it gives you more time to see the pitch. You know, you're making contact more connected, so you're getting a little bit more time. Maybe it is just 6 inches or a foot that you have longer to see the ball, but over time that makes a difference. You have the mental approach. It helps the mental approach immensely. I don't know about you guys, but maybe you've observed that, like, guys like like Ken Griffey Jr., Mickey Mantle, Babe Ruth, Ted Williams. These guys rarely threw bats and got upset with themselves about their hitting. Why? Because having a great swing, you intuitively understand that your swing is going to deliver for you with great odds compared to everybody else. You just know that. So if you have an 0 for 4 day with even, 4 strikeouts, you know that's an anomaly, and you know the next game there's a good chance you're going to go 3 for 4 or 4 for 4. You just don't sweat every little at bat. So it helps the mental approach immensely in that way, because we all know the best mentality you can have for baseball is just a laid back, it is a game of failure. People are right when they say, and so what's that mean mentally? Mentally it means if you're a person who just takes failure in stride and doesn't freak out over it, you're going to do better in baseball. But it's way harder to do that with a bad swing. It's very difficult to go up there. The whole game is difficult because having a bad swing puts more pressure on your defense. You feel like you have to deliver more defensively. You feel like each and every at bat you got to get a hit. You might lose your job soon, or it's stressful. It helps, having a good swing helps with being basically with strength and speed, because strength and speed is about having more mass and speed behind the barrel. Well, having a great swing gives you a more connected position at contact, which gives you more mass behind the hit, and it'll give you more speed. As you guys know, I talk a lot about forward bend of the bat. With a better swing, you're getting more forward bend. You're basically getting free speed added to your hits, because you're getting backward bend happening earlier in the swing, therefore giving the bat more time to move into forward bend. So we have pitch recognition, hand-eye coordination. How does it help hand-eye coordination? Well, it's much easier to square the bat up to the ball when your bat's not jumping so much through the zone. When you have better mechanics, your bat jumps less through the zone. You're making contact typically with the back arm more bent, and so as you release the back arm, the bat's kind of staying in a flatter plane. As opposed to if you go to the other extreme, you're firing your hands out, you're gonna basically be rolling over your hands as you go through contact. So all that is to say that the most important thing is swing mechanics. It just makes every other skill much easier. If you are high level in the other skills, let's just say you're, a huge, strong guy. That's going to help you a lot. I mean, Aaron Judge is more than a huge, strong guy. I mean, he's, 40 pounds on it. He's got 40 pounds on Barry Bonds, at his heaviest. So that is, he's a ridiculous level of strength and size. But let's just say you're 240. But you have average to below average levels of every other skill. It's probably not going to be all that great. Let's say you just have high levels of hand-eye coordination. That's probably the least important skill. Yeah, you're going to be barreling up a lot of balls maybe, but you're going to be hitting them weakly. Let's say you have a good mental approach. Well, again, it all comes down to swing mechanics. I really think that is the first thing. And then you can basically you could be average at the other skills. Not that you should seek average in the other skills. Obviously, try to improve them as well. But the very first component I would get is swing mechanics. And what's great about swing mechanics is now that we understand lead arm dominance, you can just go to that extreme, set it, and forget it. And just put it on autopilot. The goal I want you guys to have is to reach a great swing, and then move on. And then focus on other things. You don't have to always be, doing maintenance and work on your mechanics. Again, the greatest hitters hardly even thought about mechanics. So the point I want you guys to get to is set your swing the way you want it, and then focus on the other skills. Focus on enjoying the game more. Enjoy the fact that you're hitting with power. Your swing is working for you. It's delivering great odds at the plate. And it just makes everything so much easier. So again, while the rest of the world is talking about, how swing mechanics is way overrated, no, it's way underrated. That's why I chose it as my life interest, because I see how I just knew how important it was and wanted to fully figure it out. It's the most important component of hitting. And you'll try to be convinced otherwise out there by all these hitting coaches, but they just haven't experienced what I've experienced. They don't know what I've seen with my own eyes. And it can, making minor changes to your swing, particularly being more lead arm dominant, can make a huge impact on your performance. So I wanted to talk about the secondary cushion. Once you get lead arm dominance, once you get your swing as far as lead arm dominance down, I would want you guys to move on to another mechanical component, which is the secondary cushion. That's where your focus, that's where I would put my focus. Not that you can't be messing around and working on the secondary cushion before you get your swing down the way you want it, but that's kind of how I would put the hierarchy of priorities. So the secondary cushion is simply your weapon against a pitcher who has the ability to throw different speeds and try to throw your timing off. The reaction of conventional instruction to the pitcher's ability to throw different speeds has been stay back, don't go for power, don't lunge, confine. This is not necessary. This is throwing the baby out with the bathwater. The only thing that needs to be done is learning how to secondary cushion. And honestly, this is something that if kids faced more live pitching, if we were back in the Sandlot days, this is the kind of thing that develops naturally. But we live in a culture where it is encouraged through our training aids, it's encouraged through our teaching that kids should stay back, stay still, and just fire from basically a still position, hanging back on your back leg. Let's ensure that you never get fooled on a pitch. God forbid you're out in front, all this stuff. And they sacrifice immense amounts of power. And what do coaches say to that sacrificing of power? Don't go for power. They poo-poo power. They just, that's not what you should be doing. Hit the ball the other way. Slap the ball. It's not necessary. So let's take a look at some secondary cushions, and we'll talk about how to work on it and what it looks like. Here's Griffey doing a secondary cushion on the right. Notice these swings are in sync. Their foot just hit the ground. But watch on the right as he buys some by cushioning on his leg, on his lead leg. He's already had contact on the left, and he's still waiting on the right. This is something that would be very hard for someone who's not experienced in baseball to even pick up that this happened with the naked eye. But if you guys go to maybe your local college game and just watch the hitters, you'll be able to see this with the naked eye if they're able to do it. Most of the hitters actually these days don't do it. So, but you can see this happen. It's just it's just a quick delay. It's a quick delay of your swing, and you're just elongating this part of the swing. And what's great about that is that's the part of the swing which is pretty slow anyways. And it doesn't really matter if you slow that part down. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be slower through contact. Another thing I want to say is if your shoulder opens up a little bit, or if you get this little pulse of energy going up your body, like it was almost like the swing wave, the wave of energy moving up your body kind of pulses through your body as you're about to open up, right? Well, most people, if they don't practice the secondary cushion, they're unfamiliar with that and they feel like they've been beat. You'll see this all the time in your league. Guys will kind of stutter and then they'll feel like, oh, I messed up. You're not beat. They just haven't honed the ability to allow that wave to move through, wait, and then allow another wave to move through. And who cares if your shoulder's a little bit open? That's okay. Learn to hit from that sort of open position, that little bit of open position and a position where you had just had that little wave of energy move up your body. Be okay with that. It just takes time. Again, guys back in the Sandlot days, they just had to learn this at a young age. And we all know at a young age, if you're playing Sandlot ball and many hours of it at 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years old, then this is a skill that actually is just naturally learned. Unfortunately, we don't have Sandlots in America anymore. And so we're missing a lot of these skills, like pitch recognition is another one. But the secondary cushion was one that naturally developed. So now that's okay. It doesn't mean we need to, sulk over not having Sandlots in America anymore. It's just you need to just practice your secondary cushion move. Here's Kevin Mitchell doing his secondary cushion. I love this swing. He's going well forward. Look how much he just cushions on his leg. Just elongates how long this beginning portion of the swing takes. That's all. Just slowing it down a little bit for a second. For a split second. And then, look at that. Beautiful position there. Getting his weight into the hit. Something that today guys aren't doing. Because they bought into this conventional teaching of stay back, swing up, hang back on your back leg. And you're not getting your body into the hit. You got to move your body weight into the hit. So he doesn't hit this pitch, but great looking swing. I've had guys say they think I'm ridiculous because I put swings up of guys who are missing pitches and saying that it's a good swing. They don't realize that just because you missed a pitch, that really doesn't mean anything as far as your swing is concerned. Here's a kid who does a very Kevin Mitchell kind of move as well. Naturally, look at that. So this was just a drill where we're throwing different speed pitches, just trying to fool him. It's not the ideal way to do it. What I'd rather is people just view actual live pitching, a pitcher trying to get you out. That's really the best way to, if you're going to work on the secondary cushion, other than just working on the movement off a tee. That's really the best way to ingrain the movement in you. And then you want to test yourself in front of pitchers actually trying to get you out. We don't see enough live pitching. That goes for little leaguers all the way up to major leaguers. We have a paucity of live pitching practice in America. Again, because of the lack of Sandlots growing up. And just for whatever reason, coaches kind of don't just do live pitching in practice. So this kid's secondary cushion was great. Notice how just buys himself some time by moving on to the front leg more. Boom. Here is the way conventional instruction is doing this secondary cushion move. Now, what do you guys think was wrong with that? You know, it's obviously it's not a very good swing, and nothing against this particular teacher. He's just teaching what is conventionally taught. But what did you guys see in that movement? Obviously, it's unrealistic. Look at his stride, okay? Let's take it back again. He strides, boom. All right? Now, he goes back and strides again. Look at that. He lifts his foot again. He just basically does 2 moves. Well, that second move, you're not going to have the time to do that. The pitcher's already got you. You only have about a half a second, if that. I mean, it's probably just fractions of a second that you want to delay your swing. Unless it's a real big changeup or some sort of ephus pitch, you don't really tend to have this much time. The pitch is going to be by you. And this is counterproductive. I would recommend sitting on your couch and watching TV over doing this move, because this is going to actually hurt your swing. You're going to ingrain a movement where you're trying to recoil again, and you just don't have that kind of time. Here's Pedro Guerrero, again, synced up on the right, doing a secondary cushion. You can see he just he doesn't move as far forward in his leg, but he does tend to drop the barrel a lot more. As long as you have some movement, I think that's better. Dropping the barrel or moving forward on your lead leg or both. You can see beautiful position there at contact. He misses the ball, but great positioning, and that's why he was a pound-for-pound great. Here's Ron Karkovice doing a secondary cushion. And obviously the secondary cushion is a move where you want to postpone your shoulder rotation. You know, but you're doing that by kind of further cushioning on that lead leg. When you're doing it off a tee, when you're working this off a tee, you need to work your acting skills. You have to actually feel the pulse of energy like you were about to swing, be a little bit more open, and then fire open from there. You have to kind of act like you actually got fooled. Here is Ron Kittle. Again, doing a secondary cushion. Nice move there. Kittle was great at the secondary cushion. Here he is again. Just continues to cushion on that lead leg as he keeps that lead shoulder closed. Look how much he cushions on his lead leg. I mean, he really gets in front there. So work on your secondary cushion off a tee. And then test yourself with live pitching. I hope you guys are this off season that you've lined up some pitchers who can throw to you. You've lined up a facility that you can go to. You have to see more live pitching. If you can even see just 200 or 300 more pitches than your competitors, that's something. And that should be your goal. The next topic I want to talk about, your goal should be to see as many live pitches as you can, but if you can, just do what you can. But I would say the priority is work on lead arm dominance, doing the lead arm progression, or doing sort of that doing some games you can do, like throwing the ball up in a tennis ball up in the air, using the lead arm training bat and trying to hit it square. That's a great game. I showed you guys that on previous vlogs. But the lead arm progression is great. And secondly, work on the secondary cushion. And then third, get as many live pitches. If you just press hard on those 3 things, you will be moving faster and progressing faster in your practice than your competition. Way faster. Because most of those guys, if they're doing anything, are doing things that really don't move the needle that much. So the next topic I want to talk about is good hitting pitchers. I've talked about this before, and someone made me aware of the fact that Steve Carlton, who was a good hitting pitcher, actually wrote with his right arm. He threw lefty and batted lefty, but he wrote with his right arm, which is a handedness trait shared by many of the greatest pound-for-pound hitters. Babe Ruth, Stan Musial, Lou Gehrig, Barry Bonds, Ken Griffey Jr. So many of these guys were guys who wrote with their lead arm. And let's take a look at Steve Carlton's swing. Steve Carlton, by the way, let's take a look at his stats. So for pitchers, to find good hitting pitchers, something like hitting over 200, which Carlton did. He hit 201. Had, I think, 13 home runs for his career. Like, usually pitchers are, like a typical pitcher, I think, will be in like the low 100s, maybe even below 100. Probably average. I would be interested to see what the average batting average is of a pitcher throughout Major League history, but I would imagine it's like 90. So Carlton's at 201. That's pretty exceptional. Had 13 home runs throughout his career. That's awesome. And then this is a home run that came in the 1978 NLCS. And you can see good slotting action of the bat. The lead arm gets very compressed up against his body, very long. He had very long arms. And there you go. Look at that position. Arm well compressed up against the body and the barrel flat. Great position there. And well connected there at contact. Here we see him from the side. Again, barrel flattens, arm is nice and long, hands kind of trailing the body rotation, barrel flattens out, and then good looking swing there. And there he is writing with his right arm. Proof that he was dominant in his right arm. And if I had to choose, I would choose writing over throwing in terms of dominance in your lead arm. If I had to choose one or the other, it seems like if the guy doesn't write with his back arm, then it's going to be way less likely to kind of push out, overexert, and want to flip through the hit. Other guys that you can look at are Mike Hampton. Mike Hampton was ridiculously good. He hit like 291 in 2002, I want to say. I think he had 7 homers and 79 at-bats as a pitcher. He hit 300 or above, I think 4 years. I mean, the guy was an insanely good hitter, and this was a guy who batted righty and threw lefty. And Madison Bumgarner is another one. And Hampton and Bumgarner both have very good swings, good mechanics. The reason why good hitting pitchers are another good group to look at is because, well, for the same reason that I developed the pound for pound list. I wanted to find guys who didn't have the strength and body weight that typically would allow you to hit home runs, but were still able to hit a lot of home runs. And by doing that, by finding the guys who hit a lot of home runs despite their body weight being low, they had to have something working for them. And since swing mechanics, as I've already said, is the most important skill, they most likely had a great swing, right? Well, good hitting pitchers, the same thing. They're probably low on most of the skills. They don't get the pitch recognition. They're not hitting. They're not game in and game out getting at bats, so they don't have the reps that a position player has. So if you get some pitcher who's just an anomaly of a good hitter, they most likely have very good swings. Madison Bumgarner had a great swing. I actually did a vlog a while back on how, or maybe it was an Instagram post on how Madison Bumgarner has a better swing than Derek Jeter, and people went crazy. Like, how can you say it? No, he's got better mechanics than Derek Jeter. He's got a better swing. So he's an interesting one. He also threw lefty and batted righty. Interesting that those guys happen to be lead arm dominant, and they also happen to be probably the best hitting pitchers, purely pitchers, that we've had in the past 30 years, I would think, if not up there among the top 5. And their handedness trait of throwing lefty and batting righty, only 7 guys throughout Major League history have had that handedness trait, who have had 3,000 or more at-bats. Ricky Henderson, Hal Chase, Rube Bressler, Cleon Jones, Cody Ross, Ryan Ludwig, and Jimmy Ryan. And their OPS plus among these 7 guys is like 114. I mean, the average OPS plus among them is 114, which is, higher than Derek Jeter and Brooks Robinson. So, there are so much evidence to the correlation of lead arm dominance to being a great hitter. And the pitchers show it just as much as the position players. So anyways, that is pretty much what I wanted to cover for this one. Let me know your thoughts. I'd be interested to hear what you guys have to say. And I'll see you next time.